More on this issue, I spoke to attorney Brian Schaffer. I began by asking him whether more technology means more distraction at work.
I think that depends on the person. I think the way the workplace, is comprised today, people have the same technology, available on their desktop at work and also at their home.
Now, you also have companies who will provide phones and other devices for employees to work on. And in some cases, there's been a bit of backlash. For example, the T-Mobile lawsuit in 2009, where employees were given these devices and ended up working 10 to 15 hours outside of their regular work schedule just to kind of keep up with the pace with customers and their job. And that ended up becoming a problem. Now, there's only been a small handful of lawsuits like that. Is that something we might expect to start growing?
I would say yes. It's definitely, a ripe area for litigation because, you have a lot of people who are making, between $40,000 and $75,000 a year on salary who are expected to essentially be on call and available all hours of the night. And frankly, most of those people should be compensated for all of that time.
So we're looking at these companies that are becoming more efficient, as you say, because employees are on the clock constantly. Are there any particular industries where you're seeing the highest proportion of people working outside of their traditional work hours?
I would say a lot of financial companies, banks, so, people who have the titles of, say, financial analyst, in some cases stockbrokers who are trading overseas, personal assistants, and a lot of individuals employed in the marketing areas.
And in terms of the days that people get off, now some countries have more public holidays, so technically they have additional days off. And the U.S. is on the lower scale. On the high end, you have places like India where there are 21 public holidays, so people do kind of have that chance to step away from work and be more refreshed. Is that something that you think could potentially happen in the U.S.?
I think it probably should happen in the U.S. However, I think for some reason our employment laws, especially as they pertain to sick time, vacation time, pregnancy leave, are very behind, especially compared to our Western comparators.
Now let's talk about some of the recourse for workers. If they're not sure whether or not they should be asking for overtime pay, or if they're feeling a little bit run down because there's that unspoken rule where they're expected to be on call, even if it's not verbally said.
I think, frankly, what a person should do is call an employment lawyer if they feel like they've, worked well over 40 hours and are either not being compensated for those hours, or they feel like they're paid on salary and they really should be hourly. Unfortunately, the culture in American business is to tell workers that they're really not entitled to be paid for this time, when in fact they really should be paid. So, things that I tell, workers to do, really keep track of your time, either keep a journal, jot down your time in your email or your calendars. And actually the Department of Labor has an app that you can download on your smartphone to input your time when you're away from the office.
And when it comes to employers, what they can perhaps do to protect themselves from these potential lawsuits from employees who feel like they're overworked and not getting fairly compensated, how can employers protect themselves?
Really, the way that they should do that is only require individuals who are highly paid, so really over $100,000, and who really qualify for the limited exceptions to overtime pay, for those individuals to be the only ones working essentially remotely or after hours or on smartphones or other devices. They really run the risk of a lawsuit if they have really lower rung employees, with a smartphone and having to do all this work outside the office.
And as we look ahead, the jobs of the future are most likely going to have more of a connection to technology. There's going to be more people working these non-traditional hours. How do you see companies adapting to that? What can they do to still make it an inviting place for people to want to work if they're thinking they might have to be plugged in 24/7?
They could provide extra perks. They could provide them, in addition to pay, things like gift cards, dinners, tickets to sporting events. Unfortunately, we live in a world where, companies really expect people to be available and on call 24 hours. And even customers expect a level of service where someone sends you an email at midnight that, you have to really respond to that in a timely manner. So And also, again, companies should really only make people who are eligible to not receive overtime to really perform those tasks.